The door didn't open. It came off the frame. Not all the way, just enough. Just enough that the whole wall shook, that the little framed certificate above my desk rattled against the nail, that my cold coffee trembled in its mug like something underground had shifted. And I was on my feet before I even told my legs to move, because that sound, that particular sound of wood under pressure, from something that doesn't understand restraint, that sound does something to the body that the brain takes a second to catch up to. I had been alone in that clinic for 6 hours. The rain had been going since 9. Not the soft kind. The kind that sounds like it's trying to get inside. The kind that makes the whole world feel smaller, closer, like the darkness outside has pressed up against every window and is just waiting. My last patient left at 5:30, a border collie with an infected paw. I'd cleaned it, wrapped it, sent the owner home with antibiotics, and a look that said, "Don't let him run in the creek again." And then it was just me. Me and the hum of the equipment, and the rain, and the particular silence of a place built for emergencies, sitting in the in-between. I was doing paperwork. That's how ordinary tonight started. Paperwork, a pen running out of ink, a fluorescent light above the back cabinet that had been flickering for 3 weeks, and that I kept meaning to replace, and kept not replacing, because the days blur, and the weeks blur, and suddenly 3 weeks have gone by, and the light is still flickering. And then the wall shook. Hi viewers, I have to ask you something personal right now, because I need to know. Have you ever been in a moment so quiet, so ordinary, so completely yours, and then something walks through a door, and the whole direction of your life just shifts? Tell me in the comments. Tell me the moment. I want to know, because that's exactly what happened to me. He didn't walk in. He arrived. Like the word walk doesn't have the width for what he did. He filled the doorway the way a storm fills a valley, not by moving into it, but by making everything around it suddenly feel very, very small. The rain was behind him, a solid curtain of silver and black, and for 1 full second I couldn't process what I was seeing because my brain was running through its catalog of things that can stand that tall, that wide, that still, in the frame of a door at midnight, and coming up empty. His eyes found me immediately. Silver. Not gray. I need you to understand the difference, because gray is a color that apologizes for itself. Gray is overcast skies and old photographs. What I was looking at was silver, the kind of silver that catches light that isn't there, the kind that makes you feel looked through rather than looked at. And they were completely, terrifyingly calm. Like he had not just taken a door off its hinges, like this was simply how he entered rooms. He was bleeding from somewhere near his left temple. I could see it even in the bad light, a dark line tracking down the side of his face, catching the edge of his jaw. His jacket was torn at the shoulder. His boots were caked in mud, and the mud had something darker mixed into it that I was not going to examine closely yet. He was soaked through. The rain had plastered everything to him, and everything was a lot to be plastered, because this man, this person, was constructed on a scale that didn't fit inside a normal building without renegotiating the architecture. And in his arms, wrapped in a cloth that had once been white, and was now soaked gray with rain, and whatever else the night had brought was something so small it almost didn't exist. He was holding it the wrong way. That was the thing that broke through. That was the thing that cut through the shock, and the rain, and those silver eyes and the wall still trembling the way he was holding it, like he knew it was fragile, but didn't know the mechanics of fragile. Like a person who has only ever carried heavy things trying to hold something that weighs almost nothing. I was around the desk before I thought, "Give him to me." My voice came out flat, steady, the voice I use when I don't have time to feel things yet. He stopped, and I watched something happen in those silver eyes, something quick and complicated and not entirely human, and the air in that small clinic changed the way air changes before lightning. Every hair on my arm stood. My body understood something my brain was still working on. I took 1 step toward him anyway. Hand out, chin up. "Now," I said, "or he dies in your arms." He looked at my hand. He looked at my face. And then the most powerful thing I have ever seen in my life, he gave me the pup. The cloth was ice cold. The weight of it was almost nothing. And when I pulled the fabric back and pressed 2 fingers against a chest no bigger than my fist, searching for the heartbeat that should have been there was nothing. I turned and ran for the table, and the whole world collapsed into the next 30 seconds. That is the night I met him. That is the night everything changed. Not with a conversation, not with a name exchanged across a candlelit room, with a door coming off its frame in the middle of a rainstorm, and a pup that wasn't breathing, and a man with silver eyes who handed me the most important thing in his world because I told him to. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that I had just walked into the center of something so much larger than one rainy Tuesday night in a small clinic at the edge of a forest road. I didn't know who he was yet. I didn't know what he ruled, what he'd done tonight to keep it, how many bodies were cooling somewhere out in that rain because someone had tried to take something from him. All I knew was that there was a pup on my table, and he wasn't breathing. And every single second now was the only second that mattered. 30 compressions, 2 breaths, 30 compressions. That's the rhythm. That is the only thing that exists right now, the count, the pressure, the tilt of that tiny head back just enough to open an airway the size of my finger. My hands are moving faster than my heart, and my heart is going very fast, and I am not thinking about the man behind me. I am not thinking about the silver eyes I can feel on the back of my neck like 2 fingers pressed against my spine. I am not thinking about the torn jacket, or the blood, or the way the air in this room still feels like a weather event. 30 compressions. The pup's chest is gray at the lips, cold the way things get when the warmth has been leaving for a while. Not new cold, old cold. The kind that means time is already working against me, and time and I have always had a complicated relationship, and tonight I refuse to let it win. 2 breaths. I cup my hand around the pup's entire face. Press my mouth over his nose and mouth at once because he is that small. He is just that impossibly, heartbreakingly small, and I breathe, gentle, controlled, just enough. Too much and you damage the lungs. Too little and nothing moves. There is no margin here. There is only precision. 30 compressions. Behind me, I hear nothing. He is a wall of silence. He could have left. Part of me wonders if he has, but I don't turn to check, because the second I look away from this pup, I have ceded something I can't get back. So he exists only as a pressure at my back, a held breath, a presence that makes the room feel smaller than it is. 2 breaths. Come on, I say. And I don't mean to say it out loud, but it comes out anyway, low and private, just for the 2 of us. Just for me and this tiny animal and the stubborn, impossible distance between almost gone and still here. Come on, little one. You don't get to leave yet. Not tonight. You hear me? Not tonight. And I feel it before I see it. A twitch, chest. Involuntary, reflexive. The body remembering what it's supposed to do, and then another. And then a sound that is the most brutal and beautiful thing I have heard in years. Wet. Thin. Outraged. A cry. I flip him to his side in the same motion, one hand supporting spine, other hand already reaching for the warming unit. My exhale comes out shaking. I didn't know I was holding it. The relief that moves through my body is physical. It moves like something released from pressure, up through the chest and out through the throat, and I laugh. One sharp, broken sound that surprises both of us, and I press my forehead briefly to the edge of the table and breathe. The pup is crying. He is tiny and furious and breathing, and I have never loved an angry sound so much in my life. I get him into the warming unit. 38 degrees, humidity at 60%. The specific math of keeping something alive that came into the world before the world was ready for it. My hands are still moving. They don't stop after a save. They can't. There's always the next task and the next check and the next thing that needs doing, and it is, in this motion, this forward lean of my body over the unit, that I feel it. Him, moving closer. Not aggressively, not quickly. The slow, deliberate movement of something enormous, choosing to be careful. I can feel the warmth of him on my left side before he's even beside me. He runs hot. I'll learn later that they all do, that wolves run at temperatures that should be fevers, and somehow aren't. And I straighten without turning and keep my eyes on the pup. He's breathing, I say. My voice is back to flat, back to professional. Shallow, but steady. He's not out of danger, but he's breathing. Silence. Then, what do you need? 3 words, and the voice that delivers them does something I am not prepared for. It is low, lower than low, the kind of low that you feel in your sternum before you hear it with your ears, and it is rough with something that is not his usual register. Something cracked in it. Something that wasn't there 60 seconds ago. I glance at him sideways, just briefly. He is looking at the pup. Those silver eyes fixed on the tiny heaving chest with an expression I have no category for. It is not soft. Nothing about his face does soft, but it is open in a way that makes me think opening is not something it does often. Something is moving behind those eyes. Something old and locked, and suddenly without its key. Heat lamp from the back cabinet, I say. The orange handle. Don't touch the dial. He moves. Immediately. No hesitation. No question about whether fetching things from back cabinets is beneath him. He brings it back and sets it exactly where I point and steps back. And I understand something in that moment that I will spend a long time unpacking. He does not defer to people. That is obvious, that is written in every line of his body, in the way the room itself rearranged when he entered it, in the way the collie in the back kennel hasn't made a single sound since he arrived, like even the animals know better than to test him. He doesn't defer, but he just deferred to me. Not because I made him, not because of protocol, because I was the person who knew what to do, and he knew that I knew, and that was enough for him. Just enough, like competence is the only hierarchy he actually respects. I file that away. I file away the sound of his voice when he asked what I needed. I file away the expression on his face, watching the pup breathe. And I file away the moment, the very specific, very quiet moment, when I whispered, "Come on, little one," into the air, and felt something in the room change, like a pressure shift, like something leaning in. I don't look at him again for several minutes, but I am aware of him the way you're aware of a fire in a dark room. You don't have to look directly at it to know exactly where it is, exactly how close, exactly how much heat it's throwing. The pup settles. The cry fades to small, exhausted huffs of breath. I let myself have one more second of relief. One full second, eyes closed, hand resting lightly on the edge of the warming unit. Just feeling how close that was, how the whole thing balanced on the edge of a coin for 60 seconds, and somehow came down the right way. Then I open my eyes, turn around. He is right there, closer than I expected. Not touching close, there's still distance between us, still air but close, the way a person stands when they've stopped thinking about distance, like the distance stopped feeling relevant, and his body just drifted. Without permission, without a decision being made about it. His eyes are already on my face. Not the pup. My face. And there it is again, that thing in his eyes that has no name. That thing that is not quite a question, and not quite a statement, and not quite anything my vocabulary has a word for. My heart does something stupid. I look away first. He'll need around-the-clock monitoring, I say. Feeding every 2 hours. Temperature checked every 40 minutes until he stabilizes. Whoever handles him needs to know what they're doing. Then you'll do it. I turn back. Look at him. I run a clinic, I say, not a nursery. You run a clinic, he agrees. And you'll run it from my compound for the next 2 weeks. I open my mouth. He speaks before I can. This pup is my heir. The room goes so quiet I can hear the rain again. My heir. 2 words. And the weight of them rewrites every single thing about this night. About who he is. About what I just held in my hands. About why the door came off the frame, and why those silver eyes don't know how to ask, and why the most powerful wolf alive is standing in my exam room at midnight telling me where I'm going to spend the next 2 weeks of my life. My heir. I look at the pup in the warming unit, at his tiny chest, rising, falling, rising, falling, and I think about the word no. I think about what it would take to say it, what it would look like, what would happen in this room if I said it. I think about all of that, and then something moves in the pup's face, a twitch, a reflex, the smallest possible reaching gesture of a hand no bigger than my thumbnail, and every argument I was building dissolves. 2 weeks, I say. My equipment comes with me. My rules in that medical room. No one touches him without my approval. Those silver eyes study me for a long moment. Agreed, he says. He says it like it cost him nothing. I have a feeling it cost him everything. I know this gate. That is the first thought I have when the car turns off the main road, and the headlights catch the iron crest bolted to the stone pillar on the left. The wolf head, mouth open, teeth forward. The metalwork rusted in the joints the way old iron gets when it's been standing in weather for 20 years, and nobody has touched it because nobody needs to, because nothing comes through this gate without permission. And the gate has never needed to look welcoming to feel powerful. I know it. I was 17 the first time I walked through it, 19 the last time, and I swore I made myself a promise in the specific language of someone who has been broken in a particular way and rebuilt herself around the shape of that break. I swore I would never come back. The car moves through the gate. I keep my face forward. I keep my hand on the incubator. I keep my breathing even and slow, and I do not look at the man sitting on the other side of the pup's carrier, because if I look at him right now, if I let any of this show on my face, I will have given something away that I am not willing to give. The compound is lit, but quiet. Late enough that most people have pulled back into their dens, their rooms, their private dark. A few figures move near the outer building guards, patrol, the specific posture of people who are always watching. The car stops at a side entrance. The driver, who has not spoken once this entire ride, opens the rear door without being asked. I step out. The rain has slowed to something colder. Not drops, now mist. The kind that coats everything without committing to falling. It lands on my face and on my hands and on the back of my neck, and I stand there for one full second, breathing it in, letting the cold settle something inside me that has been vibrating since the door came off the frame. He is beside me before I know it. The incubator in one arm, he took it from my hands at the car door, efficiently, like something he'd decided ahead of time, and his other hand not quite at my back, not touching, just present, like a parenthesis, like a question that hasn't been asked yet. I walk forward before it can be asked. The corridor they lead me through is stone, old stone, the kind that holds cold, that holds sound, that holds the memory of every conversation that has ever happened inside it. My footsteps echo. His don't, not really, not the way mine do, because he moves differently, distributes weight differently, the specific quiet of something that has always been a predator and learned a long time ago not to announce itself. Doors open before we reach them. Faces appear, study me, disappear. I feel the weight of this pack the way you feel weather before it arrives, in the pressure. The way things go slightly still before a front moves through, and then we pass the east corridor. I don't mean to react. My body does it without consulting me, a single sharp breath, pulled in through the nose, held for half a second before I release it. My eyes go to the floor, and then back up. My stride stays even, my face stays empty, but he catches it. I feel him catch it the way I feel everything about him in the peripheral, in the change of air beside me, in the slight alteration of his presence that says something has shifted in his attention. He doesn't speak immediately. He waits the way I've already learned he waits, which is with a patience that has nothing gentle about it, and everything certain about it. The patience of someone who knows the world will eventually give him what he's looking for. "You've been here before," he says. Not a question. "Once," I say, which is a lie. Not a lie of fact, it was 2 years. Not once, but a lie of weight, of shape, of what I'm willing to let him hold about me on a night when I am already holding more than I planned to. We reach the medical room. It's been set up more than I expected, better equipment than I could have asked for. Someone knew what this pup would need and prepared for it, which tells me something I haven't had time to think about yet. I carry the incubator to the main table. Begin transferring. My hands know this work the way hands know breathing, without decision, without thought, the body simply doing the thing it was built for. He stands at the edge of the room, watching. He doesn't sit. He doesn't lean. He just stands, at the precise point where the room ends and the doorway begins, like he's decided that's where he is allowed to be, like he's giving me the space without knowing why he's giving it. "There are people who can take shifts," he says. "You don't have to be the one." "I'll take the overnight," I say, without looking up. He needs consistency right now. A different set of hands every 4 hours confuses the monitoring. "I'll sleep in shifts." He is quiet. "You don't trust my people," he says. Not accusatory, just noting it. I look at him then, straight at him. "I don't know your people," I say. "I trust what I can verify. Right now, I can verify me." Something moves across his face, and then he asks the question I didn't see coming. The question that lands in the center of my chest like a stone dropped in still water, rippling out to every edge. "Who hurt you here?" Just like that. Simple. 4 words. Not aggressive, not demanding, just spoken, the way you speak something you already know the answer to, and you're asking because you want the other person to know that you know. I look at him for a long moment. I look at those silver eyes and the blood drying at his temple, and the incubator he carried through the rain with one arm, and the way he's standing at the edge of my room, like he's been told he isn't allowed inside. I look at all of that, and I do not answer him. I turn back to the pup and I say, "Get some rest. I'll update you in the morning." He doesn't move for a moment. I count the seconds. 4, 5, 6. Then I hear his footsteps move toward the door. They stop. "My name is Kane Mercer," he says quietly. "Alpha King of the Thornwall territory. And I have been looking for you for 3 years, Lisa Calloway." I don't turn around, but my hands go completely still on the incubator panel. The room is silent. The pup breathes, and I stand there trying to understand how a man I have never met knows my name, knows how long I've been gone, knows the thing I walked out of, and the promise I made to myself on the other side of that iron gate. And then I hear him leave. The door doesn't close loudly. It barely makes a sound, but it is all I can hear for a very long time.
She told me to get some rest. Me, I have not slept in 31 hours. I have broken 3 men tonight who thought they could take what is mine. I have driven through a storm with a pup who was not breathing, walked into a human clinic at midnight, and handed the most important thing in my world to a woman I had never met because she told me to. Because she held out her hand and looked me dead in the eye and said now like she had the right to say it, and she told me to get some rest. I am standing in the corridor outside the medical room, and I cannot make my feet move down the hall. My beast is quiet. That is the thing that is bothering me most, not the events of tonight, not the traitor I haven't found yet, not the heir I almost lost. It is the fact that my beast, the thing that has driven every decision I have made since I was 17 years old, the thing that has never once in my life been quiet without a fight, is sitting completely still inside my chest, listening through the door to the sounds of her moving around the medical room, the soft click of equipment, the low hum she makes under her breath when she works. Not quite a song, not quite words, just sound, just warmth given a shape. My beast is listening to her hum. I press the back of my head against the stone wall and close my eyes and breathe out through my nose and tell myself to move. There are things that need doing. Marcus needs to be found and questioned. The security breach in the medical equipment needs to be traced. I have a compound full of people who need to see their Alpha King look like he has this handled, because the moment a pack smells uncertainty in their alpha, everything starts to loosen at the edges. I know all of this. I do not move. I told her my name. I told her my name and how long I had been looking for her, and then I walked out of that room before she could ask me why. Because I do not have an answer that I am ready to say out loud. Not tonight. Not to a woman who already looks at me like she is deciding something, constantly deciding something, running calculations behind those steady brown eyes that I am not sure I want the results of. 3 years. I had 3 people looking for her for 3 years, and not one of them found her. Because she is very good at disappearing. Because when Lisa Calloway decides to vanish, she vanishes completely. No trace, no trail, no forwarding address, no pack registration in any of the 4 territories. Like she scraped herself clean off the record and started again somewhere no one would think to look. A small clinic. Edge of the forest road. Outside territory lines. Of course she put herself just barely outside the reach of every pack that could have claimed her. I push off the wall. Force my feet to move. I get 12 steps down the corridor before my beast throws itself against the inside of my chest, hard enough that I actually stop walking. Go back. I stand in the middle of the corridor. Something is wrong. I turn around. I am back at the door in 10 steps, and I open it without knocking. I have never knocked on a door in my life. I am working on this. She will probably make me work on this, and the scene inside the room rearranges everything. She is at the incubator. That part is fine. What is not fine is the panel on the side of the unit, the temperature panel, which should be glowing green and steady, is flashing amber, dropping, not a malfunction, not a power issue. Someone has been in this panel and changed the settings, and the change was designed to be slow enough that you'd miss it if you weren't watching for it. She is already on manual override. Her hands are moving so fast they blur. She doesn't look up. Someone accessed the controls, she says. Her voice is flat. Too flat. The flatness of someone keeping fear in a box by sheer force of will. In the last hour, temperature was set to drop by 1 degree every 6 minutes, slow enough to look like drift. I am across the room. I look at the panel. At the manual fingerprint trail on the casing edge that should not be there. At the specific way the internal setting was changed, not randomly, not clumsily, but precisely, with the knowledge of exactly which variable to alter for maximum damage and minimum trace. Whoever did this knew this equipment. Whoever did this knew this room. My beast is no longer quiet. It comes up through me like heat through stone, slow and total and without ceiling, and I let it come up just far enough to keep the edge. Then I lock it down because she is 3 feet away, and I will not let her see what I become when something threatens what is mine. She has pulled the pup from the incubator, pressed him against her chest, her own warmth, her own heartbeat against his, her chin tucked over the top of his head, and her arms forming a wall around him. She is standing with her back to the far corner of the room, and she is shaking. Her hands are shaking. She doesn't stop moving. That is the part that hits me somewhere. I don't have armor, for she is shaking, visibly, and she is still checking the pup's temperature with her fingertips, still adjusting the cloth, still doing the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, because falling apart is something she has apparently decided to schedule for a different day. I cross to her, slowly, deliberately. I crouch, so I am at her level, so those eyes don't have to look up at me. So she doesn't have to feel small right now, because she is not small. She is the furthest thing from small, and I look at her face. The cut at her temple from earlier. The exhaustion she's been carrying since she walked through my gate. And underneath all of it, underneath the flat voice, and the steady hands, and the endless forward motion, something that looks a lot like a person who has been the only person standing between disaster and everything fragile for a very long time, and is very, very tired of standing alone. My chest does something I do not examine. She would die for what's mine, my beast says, quiet and certain as stone. Without being asked, without a deal, without anything owed, I look at the pup against her chest, at his tiny face, calm now, breathing against her warmth. Is he okay? My voice comes out lower than I intend. He's okay. She looks at me over the top of the pup's head. Her eyes are steady again. Just barely, but steady. Someone just tried to kill a 2-week-old pup, Kane. First time she's used my name. It lands differently than I expected. From her mouth, in that voice, with those eyes looking directly at mine, it lands like something given. Like a door opened 1 inch. I know, I say. Then you know this goes past tonight. Yes. She studies me, running those calculations again, deciding how much she trusts what she sees. Find out who, she says finally, because next time I might not catch it in time. I hold her gaze. There will not be a next time, I say. And I mean it, the way I mean very few things from the floor of myself, from the part of me that does not make promises, because promises are debts, and this one I will collect on personally. Her arms tighten slightly around the pup. She nods. Once. I stand, move to the door. I have someone to find and a compound to lock down and approximately 6 things that need my attention before sunrise. I stop at the door. Lisa. She looks up. Lock this from the inside after I leave. Do not open it for anyone except Dara. Her knock is 3 and then 2. Something crosses her face. Not quite fear. Not quite relief. Something between the two that doesn't have a clean name. 3 and then 2, she repeats. Yes, I leave. But I post 2 guards outside that door that she doesn't know about. And I stand in the corridor for 40 seconds after I hear the lock slide home, my hand flat against the stone wall, listening to the quiet on the other side. My beast says nothing. It doesn't need to. We both already know what's happening. The question is what I'm going to do about it, and the bigger question, the one I carry with me all the way down the corridor and into the room where I'm about to interrogate every person who had access to that medical wing tonight, is whether she'll let me. Because here's the thing about Lisa Calloway that I already understand, 40 minutes into knowing her name. She does not let people do things for her. She lets people do things with her, on her terms, by her rules, in her timing. And the man standing in my way right now, the one with access to my compound, my equipment, my heir's medical room, I already know his name. I have known it since the temperature panel, the fingerprint trail, the specific setting, the particular kind of knowledge that only comes from being trusted with information over a long period of time. Marcus. He walks in like he owns the floor. I have been awake for 36 hours, and I am watching Marcus Reed move through my compound like a man who has already decided how this ends, and everything in me goes cold and precise and still. Not the stillness of peace, the stillness of a predator that has locked onto something and is no longer wasting energy on anything that isn't the target. He doesn't see me. Not yet. I'm in the upper corridor, above the main hall, and he's below, moving toward the medical wing, with a purpose in his stride that he's working hard to wear as casual. Almost succeeding. Almost. I know Marcus. I have known Marcus for 11 years. I know how he walks when he wants something. I know the particular tilt of his shoulders when he's already run the odds on a situation and decided they're in his favor. He thinks they're in his favor right now. I come down the stairs. He hears me when I'm 3 steps from the bottom, turns. And to his credit, to the credit of 11 years of practice, his face does almost nothing. A small adjustment. A smooth, immediate pivot into the expression I've seen him wear 1,000 times. Easy. Familiar. The face of a man who has nothing to hide because he's hidden it perfectly. Kane. He nods. Heard there was a situation with the pups unit last night. Did you? Not a question. He hears that. His eyes sharpen for just a fraction of a second. The whole East Wing heard the commotion, he says. Easy as water. Is he... Walk with me, I say. He falls into step. This is the thing about Marcus. He is very good. 11 years. And if I hadn't been standing outside that medical room when my beast told me to go back, if I hadn't seen that fingerprint trail on the panel casing, if Lisa hadn't said someone knew this equipment, I might have walked past him in this hallway and seen exactly nothing wrong. Might have. We reach the medical room, and I open the door without knocking. Lisa looks up from the feeding log. Her eyes go to me, then to Marcus, and something happens in her face that is not quite fast enough to be hidden. She knows him, or she knows what he is. One of those two things, and from the way her chin lifts, and her shoulders square, and her hand moves just slightly toward the incubator before she stops herself, I think it might be the second one. Marcus looks at the incubator. Something passes across his face. He should be moved, he says, to the room, to no one in particular. The medical wing isn't secure enough. The Alpha's quarters. No, Lisa says. Marcus turns. Looks at her the way men look at things that surprise them by existing. I wasn't addressing you, he says. You were talking in my medical room. Her voice is flat and final. So you were addressing me. And no, he doesn't get moved. His temperature calibration isn't stable enough for transport. You move him in the next 48 hours and you risk the exact crisis someone already tried to start last night. The room goes very quiet. Marcus smiles. And I have seen that smile. I know that smile. It is the smile of a man rearranging how much damage he needs to do. Stand down, he says softly. You don't understand what's happening here. I understand enough, she says. She takes one step to her left, putting herself squarely between him and the incubator. You're not touching him. He tilts his head, moves toward the incubator. She doesn't move. I am 3 feet away and I do not move yet, because I need to see this. I need to see what he does when he thinks I'm just watching, when he thinks this is a standoff between him and a human healer he can push past without consequence. He reaches for the latch. She speaks. He's ours. The word ours drops into the room like something solid, like it has mass and weight and edges. Marcus goes completely still. Lisa goes still. I go still. And my beast stops being quiet. It surges up through me so fast I feel it in my hands, in my jaw, in the specific tightening behind my eyes that means the silver is bleeding into them and I have about 30 seconds before the decision gets made for me. I lock it down. Jaw, chest, hands flat at my sides. But Marcus hears it, the shift in the air, the specific drop in room temperature that happens when an alpha runs the line between human and beast, and his eyes cut to me. And there it is. The tell. Not guilt. Fear. The specific fear of a man who has been caught not by evidence but by timing, and knows that the difference between those two things doesn't matter anymore. Marcus, I say. One word. His name. Nothing else. He straightens. The smile is gone now. What's underneath it is what I always suspected was underneath it but never had cause to surface until tonight. Something calculating. Something patient. Something that has been waiting for a very long time, for the right moment. You brought a stranger into the compound, he says, quiet, even, making his case because he has decided he still has one to make. A human with no pack loyalty, no verified history, no... She has my protection, I say. That is the only history that matters here. His jaw tightens. The air needs to be with pack blood, he says. Not. Careful, I say. Very soft. Finish that sentence very carefully. He doesn't finish it. Smart. I step toward him. One step. And 6'4" Marcus Reed, who has stood in rooms with people trying to kill him and never flinched, takes the smallest possible step back. He doesn't even know he does it. You're going to want to tell me, I say quietly, exactly who else was involved in the temperature adjustment last night. Not because I'm asking, because the alternative is that I find out myself. And you know what happens when I find out myself, Marcus. His face does something complicated. I want your answer before sundown, I say. You'll be confined to your quarters until then. He looks at me for a long moment. At Lisa, at the pup in the incubator, at the word hours still sitting in the air between all of us. Then he turns and walks out. I wait until his footsteps have fully cleared the corridor. Then I turn to Lisa. She is already looking at me, both hands on the incubator now. Knuckles pale, jaw set. And her eyes, those eyes that have been measuring and calculating and deciding from the moment I showed up at her door, are doing something different right now. They're asking, not out loud. She will not ask out loud. But I see it there, the question she hasn't built the trust to put words to yet. The one that goes, how deep does this go, and am I already in too deep to get out? I take a breath. There are people in this compound, I say carefully, who do not want this pup to survive. Her chin lifts. Because he's your heir. Because of what he inherits, I say. Not just from me. She watches my face. Reads it the way she reads her equipment, not for what it shows, but for what it isn't showing. His father, she says slowly. You said he was my brother, I say, who everyone in this territory believes is dead. The silence that follows is the loudest thing that has happened tonight. Her eyes widen. Just slightly. Just enough to tell me she understands the full shape of it now. The pup, the inheritance, Marcus, the temperature panel, the specific targeting of the one person in this compound who stands between the air and everything trying to erase him. He's alive, I say, and when he comes back, and he will come back, everything changes. That pup on that table is the proof of it. The heir of two bloodlines. The one thing that makes my brother's claim undeniable. Lisa is quiet for a long moment. Then, so the people who need him gone are the people who benefit most from my brother staying dead, I say. She looks at the pup, at his tiny chest, rising and falling, rising and falling. Then we have a problem, she says, because I can protect him in this room. I can monitor his vitals and control his environment and keep him breathing. She looks up at me. But I can't protect him from your own people, Kane. I don't know this compound. I don't know who's loyal and who isn't. I don't know what doors have eyes or which corridors have ears. She pauses. That part is yours, she says. I hold her gaze. She is right. She is exactly right. And the fact that she mapped it that cleanly, that fast, divided the problem into her jurisdiction and mine without ego, without asking for reassurance, just stating the reality of what we each hold, does something to my chest that I am not ready to sit with right now. Yes, I say. She nods. I turn to leave. Kane. I stop. Turn back. She is looking at me with an expression I have not seen on her face before. Not the flat professionalism. Not the measuring calculation. Something quieter than both of those things. Something that costs her something to let me see. Your brother, she says. Is he safe right now? Of all the questions she could have asked, of all the angles she could have come at this from. She asked about him. I hold her eyes for a moment longer than I mean to. I'm working on it, I say, and when I walk out of that room, I take that question with me. I carry it all the way down the corridor and into the cold morning air of the outer courtyard, where my guard captain is waiting with a report I already know I'm not going to like. Because here is what nobody in this compound understands yet, what Marcus doesn't know, what the people behind Marcus don't know, what none of them calculated when they planned their quiet, careful moves against an heir they thought was unprotected. They didn't know about her. They didn't know I would find her. They didn't know that a woman who disappeared 2 years ago and rebuilt herself at the edge of the forest road would be the one standing between their plan and everything it needed. And they do not know, not yet, what it means that she called that pup ours. But I do. My beast has known since she said it. And that, right now, is the most dangerous thing in this entire compound.
The oxygen tank hits him across the shoulder before I decide to swing it. That is the honest truth of it. My hands moved before my brain sent the order, the way they always do when something I'm protecting is in the path of something trying to destroy it. The impact travels up both my arms, rattles my teeth, and Marcus staggers sideways into the overturned supply cart and goes down on one knee. He does not stay down. He comes back up faster than a man his size should be able to, and the easy smile is completely gone now, and what is underneath it is ugly and focused and absolutely certain of itself. He rolls his shoulder once, tests it, looks at me. You have no idea, he says quietly, what you just stepped into. I know exactly what I stepped into, I say. I stepped into a room where someone tried to kill a 2-week-old pup and got interrupted. Step toward that incubator again and I'll step into it harder. He tilts his head. Then he moves. Not toward the incubator. Toward me. And I was ready for the incubator. I had positioned myself for the incubator, and the shift in target catches me half a step wrong, and then his hand is around my wrist, and I am moving backward, and the room is very small, and getting smaller. I do not scream. I have never screamed. Screaming uses air that I need for thinking. I let him push me back. Let him feel the momentum of it. Feel me giving ground, because a man like Marcus reads resistance as information, and I need him to read the wrong information for exactly 2 more seconds. My free hand closes around the defibrillator charging handle mounted to the crash cart on my right. He shoves. I swing. The handle catches him across the left side of his face. Not the temple. I'm not trying to kill him. I'm trying to stop him. There is a difference that matters even right now, but the cheekbone. The crack of it is loud in the small room, and Marcus makes a sound that is not quite human and goes down. Hard. Face first. The floor shakes. The room goes silent. I stand over him with the charging handle still in my hand, breathing through my nose, and I look at the incubator. 3 steps away. Still running. Temperature holding. The pup inside is awake. I can see the tiny agitated movements through the side panel, disturbed by the noise and the vibration, but breathing. Breathing steadily. I cross to him immediately, both hands on the side of the unit. I press my forehead to the top panel for 1 full second and just listen to the hum. The steady, alive hum of equipment, doing exactly what it is supposed to do. Then I feel it. A bloom of pain from my left side, at the ribs. I hadn't noticed it in the movement. I genuinely had not felt it. But now that the adrenaline is easing back 1 degree, my body starts its inventory, and the inventory is not good. He caught me somewhere in the momentum, an elbow or a forearm, and the specific deep ache spreading from the 5th rib tells me something is either cracked or very unhappy about the last 40 seconds. I press my hand against it. Breathe through it. Keep my other hand on the incubator. The door comes off the frame. That's the only way I can describe it. Not opened, not pushed. The entire door relocated itself from where it was standing, and Kane Mercer fills the space behind it, and his eyes sweep the room in the time it takes me to blink. Marcus on the floor. The overturned cart. The charging handle in my hand. My palm pressed to my left side. He goes completely still. It is the stillest I have ever seen anything that was still technically alive. His eyes come to my face last, and what is in them, what lives in those silver eyes in this specific moment, is something I have never seen pointed at me before. Not protection, not even anger, something that comes before both of those things, something raw and immediate and not fully in his control. He crosses the room in 2 steps. He crouches in front of me, right there on the floor, this enormous, terrifying, alpha king of 4 territories, on one knee in front of me with broken pieces of his own door scattered around him, and he looks at my face the way you look at something you came very close to losing before you knew you wanted to keep it. His voice, when it comes, is barely sound. You're hurt. Not a question. It's an accusation leveled at every second he wasn't in this room. I look at him. At the way he is holding himself, every muscle locked, jaw tight, hands hovering at the edges of his own restraint, because he doesn't know yet if I'll let him close, and he is choosing, actively and visibly choosing, to let me decide. The pup is okay, I say. His eyes close for half a second. When they open, the silver in them is very bright. I know, he says. I'm asking about you. And that those 4 words do something to the place inside my chest that I keep sealed and reinforced and never let anyone near, because the last time I let someone near it, they used the access against me, and I rebuilt the wall around it thicker and higher, and I have been careful. I have been so careful. For 2 years. Those 4 words walk right up to the wall. I look away first. Left side, I say. Ribs, I need to tape it. He nods, stands, and without asking, without ceremony, he goes to the supply cabinet, the right one, the one with the compression wrap, which tells me he has paid more attention to this room than I gave him credit for, and brings it back. He holds it out. I take it. Our fingers don't touch. He makes sure of that, deliberately, and somehow that deliberateness, the care of it, the specific restraint of a man who is capable of simply taking, and is choosing not to hit harder than contact, would have. I tape my own ribs. He stands 3 feet away with his back half turned, giving me what privacy the room allows. Marcus groans on the floor. Kane looks at him. Something moves across his face that I am glad is not pointed at me. Get up, Kane says, quiet, final, and even half-conscious on the floor. Marcus gets up. Kane takes Marcus out of the room, and the door, what is left of it, doesn't fully close behind them. I listen to the footsteps move down the corridor, 2 sets becoming one as Marcus is handed off to someone else. Then just Kane's, stopping. A pause long enough that I know he is standing right outside, making sure I'm still in here, making sure I'm still okay. I keep my hands moving. I have the pup out of the incubator, and I am doing his 2-hour check weight, temperature, reflex response, lung sounds through the stethoscope so small. It looks like a toy, and I talk to him while I work, because I always talk to the ones who can't talk back. It's a habit I developed so early I don't remember starting it. The sound of a voice, any voice, is physiologically calming. Heart rate, breathing, cortisol, the science is solid. That is what I tell myself. I tell myself it is science and not loneliness that makes me talk to a 2-week-old pup in a room that still smells like a fight. You've had a very big night, I tell him softly, turning him gently to listen to his right lung. Again. You've had a lot of very big nights for someone your size. He blinks. His eyes are just barely focusing, still the blue-gray of the very newborn, the permanent color not yet decided. But you're here. You're still here. That counts for something. That counts for a lot, actually. The footsteps outside move away. I exhale. I settle the pup back in the incubator, reset the parameters, log the check. Then I sit on the floor with my back against the unit close enough to feel the hum of it through my spine, and I let myself have 30 seconds of doing absolutely nothing. 30 seconds of feeling the ache in my ribs, of feeling the way my hands are still not completely steady, of letting the full shape of tonight exist in my body without immediately problem-solving it away. Marcus knew that room. He knew that equipment. He walked in here with a specific plan, a specific target, and the specific certainty that he could get past me without much resistance. He had looked at me and calculated that I would fold. He was wrong. But the thing that is sitting in my chest right now, heavier than the rib pain, harder to breathe around, is not the fight itself. It is what Kane said before he left the last time. His brother, 2 bloodlines, a man everyone believes is dead, who is apparently very much alive, a pup who is not just an heir, but a proof of something that powerful people desperately need to stay buried. And me, in the middle of it, in a compound I swore I'd never come back to, holding the center of a war I didn't enlist for, called ours by my own mouth before I knew I was going to say it. I press my palm flat against the incubator. That word, urs. I have been turning it over in my head since it came out of my mouth, examining it from every angle, looking for the explanation that makes it smaller, the rational justification that puts it back in a category I can manage. I said it because I was in fight or flight. I said it because I needed Marcus to understand the pup had a protector. I said it because some part of me meant it. That is the part I cannot get past. I am so deep in my own head that I almost miss it. Almost. But not quite, because whatever I have been in my life, distracted has never been one of them. And there is something at the window of this room that wasn't there 60 seconds ago. A shadow. Ground floor. Small window. High on the south wall. The one that looks out onto the inner courtyard. The shadow doesn't move. It's just there, in the specific shape of a person standing very still. I stand up. I move to the supply cabinet slowly. Open it without looking at the window. Take out a fresh syringe, and the sedative I've been keeping drawn and ready since the temperature panel incident, because I am a person who learned the hard way that hoping for the best and preparing for the worst are not mutually exclusive, and I have been prepared since hour 2 in this compound. I turn. The window latch is moving. Slow, deliberate, from the outside. My heart rate goes up exactly once, and then levels. My hands are completely steady. This is the thing about fear, real fear, the kind with teeth. It doesn't make me shake. It makes me very, very calm. Like everything non-essential shuts down and leaves only the parts that matter. The latch clicks open. I am already at the incubator. The window swings in. The person who comes through is not large. That is the first thing I register. Not large, moving carefully, wearing dark clothing, and stopping dead the moment they see me standing between them and the pup with a charged syringe and an expression that clearly communicates, I know exactly how to use it. We stare at each other. He is young. That is the second thing I register. Young and exhausted and bleeding from somewhere under his left arm, the dark spread of it soaking through his jacket, and his eyes, when the faint light catches them, are silver. Not Marcus silver. Not the silver of threat. The silver of the same bloodline I've been watching for 3 days on the face of an alpha king. My hand tightens on the syringe. He raises both of his. Slowly, palms out. I'm not here to hurt him, he says. His voice is wrecked low and raw and scraped hollow the way voices get when someone has been silent for a long time, and this is the first time they've spoken out loud. I'm here to see my son. The room tips sideways and rights itself. I stare at him, at the silver eyes, at the shape of the jaw beneath the exhaustion and the blood, at the way he is looking past me, at the incubator, with an expression so unguarded it makes my chest hurt to look at directly. Kane's brother, not dead, standing in my window. I do not lower the syringe yet. How bad is the wound under your arm? I ask. He blinks, like the question surprised him, like he expected anything from me except that. Bad enough, he says. Sit down, I say. Don't touch anything. Don't move toward the incubator until I clear you. And if you do anything that makes me question whether I should have used this, I hold up the syringe. I will use it. Understood? He looks at me for a long moment. Then he sits on the floor. Understood, he says. I cross to the door. I need to get to Kane. I need to get to him right now. Before whoever else knows this man is alive figures out where he went. Before the window in my south wall becomes an entry point for something with less honorable intentions than a bleeding father who just wants to see his son. I pull the door open. Kane is already in the corridor. He is looking at me, then past me, at the man on the floor of my medical room, and the expression that moves across his face is the most human thing I have ever seen on it. Not shock, not strategy, just the specific, uncomplicated, devastating relief of a person seeing someone they thought they'd lost. Eli, he says. One word, his brother's name. And from behind me, wrecked and raw and absolutely certain, hey, big brother. I work on Eli Mercer's wound while the two of them exist in the same room for the first time in what I will later learn is 14 months. They don't hug. They don't make speeches. Kane stands 2 feet from where his brother sits on my examination table, and they look at each other the way people look at each other when too much has happened for any of it to fit into words yet. When the words will come, but not now. Not while the wound is still open, and the compound is still compromised, and there are still pieces of tonight's war scattered across 3 different corridors. Eli is quiet while I work. He watches the incubator from across the room with the focused, helpless attention of a person sitting very still to avoid spooking something fragile, like if he moves too fast the whole thing might shatter. I clean the wound. It is deep a blade wound, not claws, which tells me this was a planned attack, not a territorial fight, and it has been bleeding for hours. which tells me he came here before he went anywhere else. Before safety, before medical care. He came here first. For his son, I am not going to think about how that lands. He's going to need stitches, I say, and something for the blood loss. He's been running on nothing for too long. I'll live, Eli says. I know, I say. I'd like you to live well. Sit still. The corner of his mouth moves. Just barely. I feel Cain looking at me. Not at his brother, at me. At the way I am treating Eli with the same flat, efficient care I give every patient. No hierarchy, no difference. The wound is the wound, and it needs closing, and that is the only relevant fact. I do not look up to confirm what I'm feeling. I keep my eyes on the work. 14 stitches. Clean closure. Compression dressing. I hang a fluid bag from the IV pole and get a line started in his right arm before he can argue, because the argument is already forming on his face, and I have a 2-second head start on it. You came back because of the pup, Cain says. It is not a question. Someone sent word that he was in danger, Eli says. His eyes cut to his brother. Someone inside this compound. Cain is very still. Who? He asks. Dara, Eli says. I look up at that. Dara, the woman with the gray braid who has been guarding my door since I arrived, who Cain told me to trust, who apparently has been running a second operation underneath everyone's awareness, including Marcus's, including whoever is behind Marcus, threading a wire all the way out to a man that the entire territory believes is dead. I go back to securing the dressing. Marcus is in custody, Cain says. Marcus is not the top of it, Eli says. He never was. Marcus is the hand. You need the head. I know who the head is, Cain says. His voice has gone very quiet, the specific quiet of something decided. Eli looks at him. Something passes between them in that look, the compressed language of brothers, of shared history, of two people who know each other's worst moments and chose to stay anyway. Cain, Eli says carefully, what are you going to do? What I should have done 6 months ago, Cain says. When I first saw the numbers were wrong and let loyalty make me slow. The room settles into a silence that has weight. I finish the dressing and step back and look at my work, and then I look at Eli Mercer, at the silver eyes that are the same as his brother's but carry something different in them, not the locked, armored quality of Cain's, but something more open, more worn, like a door that has been left out in more weather. Do you want to hold him? I ask. Eli looks at me. I nod toward the incubator. He swallows. Once. Hard. Is it safe to? I'll show you how, I say. There are things you need to know about handling him right now. His temperature regulation is still developing. His neck needs support here. I demonstrate with my hands. And you talk to him. Whatever you want to say. Your voice is the most important thing he can hear right now. Eli is off the table before I finish the sentence. He stands over the incubator and his entire body changes. All the tension, all the wrecked exhaustion, all the 14 months of whatever he has been surviving, it doesn't go away, but it rearranges itself around something new, something that makes him stand differently, breathe differently. He reaches in. I guide his hands to the right position, index finger under the neck, palm supporting the spine. The pup makes a small, indignant sound at the disturbance, and then settles. Eli makes a sound I am not supposed to hear. I step back, move to the other side of the room, busy myself with the equipment log because some moments don't belong to the person who facilitated them. They belong entirely to the people inside them, and this is one of those moments. Cain moves to stand beside me. Not beside me, next to me. Close enough that his arm is almost against mine, and I am very aware of the almost, and I keep my eyes on the log. Thank you, he says quietly. So quietly it's barely air. I write something on the log that I will have to rewrite later, because it makes no sense. He needed the care, I say. That's what I'm here for. Cain is quiet for a moment. That's not what I'm thanking you for, he says. I put the pen down. I look at him. He is watching his brother hold his nephew for the first time, and there is something on his face that he has not let me see before. Not armor, not calculation, not the alpha king of 4 territories managing a crisis. Just a man, just a person watching something that matters more than all of it. My chest does the thing it has been doing since the car ride. The complicated, inconvenient, absolutely unscheduled thing. And then his phone goes off. He looks at it. His jaw locks. I have to go, he says. I know. He takes 1 step, stops, turns back. Lisa. He says my name the way he always says it, like it's a decision. Like every time he says it, he's choosing it again. When this is over, go, I say. End it. Come back. He looks at me for one more second, then he's gone. And I stand in the middle of the medical room, listening to Eli talk to his son, in a voice so low and so broken, and so full of everything a person accumulates when they've been separated from the thing they love most. And I make myself a promise. Not the kind I made at that iron gate 2 years ago. Not the kind built out of hurt and leaving. The kind built out of staying. The compound goes to war at 4 a.m. I hear it through the walls. Not the sound of it, it's too far. The outer territory, the borderlands, but the compound's response to it. Boots on stone. Orders moving through the structure like current through a wire. The specific alertness of a sleeping place coming awake all at once because the alpha has moved and everything calibrated to him moves with it. Dara comes to my door at 4:15. 3 knocks, then 2. She brings food I don't taste and information I file in careful order. Kane has taken 40 men to the eastern border, where the source of the order against Eli has been tracked to a secondary alpha, who has spent 3 years building the case that Eli is dead and the Thornwall bloodline consolidates. Which means Kane's line alone, which means a future succession that is much easier to influence from the outside. It is, when you lay it flat, a very clean plan, except for a 2-week-old pup who is breathing. Except for a brother who is very much alive and is currently asleep in the chair beside the incubator with one hand resting at the edge of the unit, not holding on, just near, just present. I watch Eli sleep, and I monitor the pup's 2 a.m. feeding, and I do not let myself think about where Kane is right now. I do not let myself map the distance or calculate the risk, or imagine any of the specific, terrible things that can happen to even the most powerful man when enough people want him gone. I do not do any of that. Instead, I think about what he said before he left. When this is over. 3 words with a door built into them. 3 words that assumed an after, an other side. A future in which tonight becomes something we talk about, instead of something we're still inside. I think about that door. I think about whether I have the nerve to walk through it. The pup wakes at 4:40 for his feeding. I have the formula at the right temperature, and I do the feed by touch in the low light, counting the small, strong pulls, watching the numbers on the monitor tick steadily in the ranges I want them. His color is good. His weight is up from yesterday by 4 grams, which is 4 grams of absolute triumph. You're doing really well, I tell him. In case nobody's been keeping track. I've been keeping track. Eli stirs in the chair, opens one eye. Is he... He's perfect, I say. Go back to sleep. He closes his eye. I smile at the pup. The smile fades when I hear the outer gate. Not because of the sound of it gates open and close, but because of what follows it. Or rather, what doesn't follow it. The specific silence of a compound holding its breath, of dozens of people listening for the same thing at the same time. Then, boots on stone. 1 set. The particular weight and rhythm that I have apparently memorized without deciding to. My hands keep moving on the feeding, steady, counting. The door opens. He looks like a war, which I expected. He is still standing, which is the only thing that matters. The jacket is gone entirely. There is blood on his hands that is not his. I can tell, after enough time around injuries, what fresh blood from someone else looks like versus the particular dark of a person's own, and his eyes find me across the room before anything else. He crosses to me. He stops 2 feet away. I look at him, all of him, running my own check, neck, shoulders, hands, the way he's distributing weight on both feet, whether there's any guarding around the ribs or the side. I'm fine, he says. I'll decide that, I say. Something that is not quite a smile crosses his face. Is it done? I ask. Yes, he says. 1 word. And the weight that lifts off the room when he says it off Eli, who has woken fully and is sitting straight in the chair, is physical. Like the whole building exhales. Eli stands. The 2 brothers look at each other across the small medical room, with the incubator humming between them and the pup sleeping inside it. Then Kane walks to his brother, puts 1 hand on the back of his neck, pulls him forward until their foreheads touch. No words, just that. Just the specific, devastating simplicity of 2 people who have been on the wrong side of a long separation, confirming, in the most wordless way possible, that the other one is real and whole and here. I look at the monitor. I give them the moment. When I look back, Kane is standing beside the incubator, looking down at the pup with an expression I have no words for, and wouldn't use them if I did. It's not mine to describe. It belongs to him. He reaches into the unit. He doesn't pick the pup up. He just rests 2 fingers on the tiny chest, on the heartbeat, steady and strong and going nowhere. What's his name? I ask quietly. Kane looks up, looks at Eli. Something passes between them. Ren, Eli says. Ren Mercer. The pup shifts, makes a sound, the small, certain sound of a person who is right where they're supposed to be. Ren Mercer. I say it silently in my head. Test the shape of it. It fits. Kane straightens, turns to me. And the look on his face now is different from everything that came before. Not the alpha reading a situation, not the man keeping himself at a careful distance, not the restraint. I have watched him exercise for 5 days with a discipline that should probably have a medal attached to it. Just him, looking at me. Come outside, he says. I need to tell you something. The courtyard is lit with lanterns. Someone has set them up while the compound was at war. I do not know who, I do not know when. I only know that when Kane opens the outer door and I step through it, the night has become something warm and amber and impossibly quiet after everything that happened inside it. The mist from earlier has cleared. The sky above the stone walls is a deep, soft dark, with the specific quality it gets in the hours before dawn, when even the dark seems to be resting. The pack is gathering, not at our direction, not by command. People simply appearing in the courtyard the way people gather when something is over, and they need to be near each other to confirm it. Faces I have been seeing for 5 days, some of whom looked through me, and some of whom looked at me with the particular wariness of a community protecting itself from the unfamiliar. They look at me differently now. I feel it. I don't examine it. Kane stands beside me. Dara is somewhere behind us. Eli is inside with the pup with Ren, and the understanding that his return will be announced properly, on his own terms, in the morning when the territory can hear it formally. Tonight belongs to the pack, to the compound, to the people who held the line. 3 years ago, Kane says quietly, we are standing near the center of the courtyard, and he is not looking at me yet. He is looking at the people gathering, at the lantern light moving across their faces. There was a report filed about a healer who had been driven out of the Greywood pack. Injuries documented. Complaint formal. My office received it late, because someone in the filing system buried it deliberately, because the Greywood Alpha had connections I didn't fully understand yet. I am very still. By the time I had it in my hands, he says, you were already gone. No trace, no trail. I sent people anyway because the report described someone. He stops, adjusts, chooses different words. Because what was done to you was done under territory law that I am responsible for. And I failed that responsibility. He turns and looks at me. I am not telling you this so you'll forgive the system, he says. The system failed you. I'm telling you because you walked back into a place that hurt you, to save a life you didn't owe anything to, and you never once asked anyone for acknowledgement of what that cost. My throat does something I didn't authorize. It needed doing, I say. Lisa. The pup needed. Lisa. He says my name the 3rd way now. Not a decision. Not a choice. A certainty. Like he's been saying it longer than 5 days. Like his mouth already knew the shape of it before we met. You needed acknowledgement. I'm giving it to you. I look at him. I look at Kane Mercer, Alpha King of 4 territories, standing in his own courtyard in the amber light of lanterns that someone hung while he was at war, with blood on his hands and exhaustion around his eyes, and the most open expression I have seen on a human face in a very long time, and I feel the wall. I feel exactly where it is, and I feel what I'm deciding. I called him ours, I say quietly. The pup. I said it to Marcus. I didn't plan to. I know, he says. I don't know what that means yet, I say. I want to be honest about that. I don't know what any of this means yet. I know that too, he says. But I'm not leaving, I say. When Ren is stable and the care transfers to pack hands, I'm not leaving because the job is done. I want to say that clearly before anything else gets said, so it's on the record. I hold his gaze. I'm not leaving. He is very still. The kind of still that comes after a long time of holding something and finally being allowed to set it down. He reaches up, slowly. The way he does everything now, slow and deliberate, and giving me every opportunity to redirect it. His hand comes to the side of my face. The same 2 fingers, the same place, the same barely a pressure that he used in the medical room when I was on the floor, shaking and trying not to show it. I don't move away. When Eli is rested, he says quietly, and Ren is stable, and the territory has had time to settle. I am going to ask you something. Okay, I say. And I need you to know, he says, that whatever the answer is, you have a place here. Not because of what you did, because of who you are. Something in my chest cracks open. Not the hurt kind of cracking, the other kind. The kind that happens when something that has been closed for a very long time finally decides the air outside is safe enough to breathe. I put my hand over his. The one at the side of my face. He goes absolutely still, and in the courtyard around us, the pack continues to gather, and the lanterns continue to burn, and somewhere inside the medical room, Eli Mercer is talking to his son for only the second time in his life, and the compound that tried to erase everything it couldn't control is still standing. Dara calls out from across the courtyard. Her voice carries the specific warmth of someone who has been waiting for this for longer than any of us knew. Alpha. Oppose. It's time. Kane doesn't move yet. He looks at me one more moment. I nod. He turns, walks to the center. The pack arranges itself without being told this is what a pack does. Moves as one body toward the thing it loves, when it's been afraid, for a long time, of losing it. Eli comes through the door, Ren against his chest, bundled and warm and steady. He walks to his brother's side, and the two of them stand together under all those lanterns, and the compound goes completely, reverently quiet. Thornwall pack, Kane says. His voice carries the full weight of what it is, not performance, not display, just the voice of a man who means every word he says, and says only the words he means. This is Ren Mercer, son of Eli Mercer, heir of the Thornwall line. The name moves through the crowd like a wave. I stand at the back. He finds me. Across all of it, across all of those people, all of that lantern light, all of that history, he finds my face, and he extends his hand. I could stand here. Every cautious, twice burned, careful part of me knows how to stand here and protect itself. I walk forward. When I reach him, he takes my hand, turns back to his pack, lets the moment breathe. This is Ren Mercer, he says again. Then, quieter, and the quiet is what carries it. The quiet is what makes every person in that courtyard lean in. And this is Lisa Calloway, the woman who gave him his first breath. He doesn't say mine. He doesn't say claimed or chosen or any of the formal words that territory law has for what this moment is beginning. He doesn't need to. The way he holds my hand says it. The way the pack receives it says it. The way Ren shifts in his father's arms and makes a small, certain living sound says it. I look down at our hands. I look up at him. For the first time in 2 years, maybe longer, maybe much longer than 2 years, I don't want to be anywhere except exactly where I am. The lanterns burn. Ren breathes. And somewhere behind the stone walls and the iron gate with the wolf crest, the territory called Thornwall goes quiet in the way places go quiet when something that has been broken for a long time finally, slowly, begins to heal. That is the story of a pup who wasn't breathing, a king who didn't know how to ask, and a woman who walked back through a door she swore she'd never open again. It does not end here. It starts here. If this story moved something in you, if you felt Ren's first breath, if you felt Lisa hold that line alone, if Kane's quiet when this is over hit you somewhere real, then you already know this is your kind of story. Subscribe and turn on notifications right now, because this channel is built for people who feel these stories in their chest, not just their ears. Every week there is a new world to step into, a new love that fights for itself, a new strength that didn't know it was strength until it was tested. Don't miss a single one. And in the comments tell me, when Lisa said ours in front of Marcus, were you holding your breath? Because I need to know I wasn't the only one. Drop it below, and let's talk about it. Your thoughts might be exactly what someone else needed to read today. Share this with someone who needs a story worth staying for.